To the distinguished gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Cohen, 3 minutes.
The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ranking Member Conyers. Thank you for the time, and to the chair, I share your grief over last night's loss. Sorry about that. This bill is it's a loss to people who've been injured by defective drugs, defective medical devices, been harmed in nursing homes, or been harmed by medical malpractice. Because it sets a cap on non-economic damages of $250,000 no matter whom the person is, whatever their position was, no matter what their damages they suffer. Trial lawyers aren't the most liked people in America. They're a little bit above Congress people, I think, but it's right in there with used car salesmen. None of the three of us are doing real good. And so it's easy to kind of beat up on them. People like their doctors. I see Dr. Rowe over there. People like doctors. Doctors provide health care if they're allowed to by federal law and given the opportunity to get reimbursed and have a system. But people don't generally like trial lawyers. But the fact is trial lawyers do a public service because they represent people, and when they do it on contingency fees, they do it for people that wouldn't have the money to hire a lawyer necessarily but have been harmed, and they go in on the idea that sometimes they'll get nothing, but if they win, they get a contingency fee, and they give representation to people that otherwise couldn't afford it. And when they win because a jury, which is like a little focus group of America, says there was a duty that the doctor breached and a harm done to the patient, and the patient should be compensated. Now, my chairman says this is just like California, and there he goes again with that Reagan stuff. You know, Reagan was 40 years ago, I think, 35 years ago, whatever. And California's law, this isn't California's law. This goes further than California on joint liability. And the fact is, when you eliminate joint and several liability on in certain places, certain part of it's California, certain part of it isn't, it's less likely that the injured party is going to be able to collect. It goes further in the terms of setting a statute. But the big picture is states' rights. Normally the folks on the other side of the aisle are all for states' rights. And they're for states' rights when it comes to voting rights. They're for states' rights when it comes to civil rights. They're for states' rights on all kind of stuff that generally tend to tamp down the lower economic folk in our country, particularly in the South. But here on medical malpractice, which has always been a province of the states, they want to usurp it and make a federal standard that applies to everybody. And if a state hasn't set a cap on damages, then the federal cap of $250,000 will go into place. So if you got a state that has it says it's unconstitutional to have a cap because you've got a right to a jury trial, then you might not be able to have that cap, and you'll have this $250,000 cap set. There are all kind of problems with federalism, all kind of problems with people who've been injured getting compensated, and other problems. I yield back the balance of my time. Go Tigers.